Now, specifically the state of Nevada, where the Trump campaign raised a legal case regarding voter fraud in the 2020 election. I want to bring in the chairman of the American Conservative Union and CPAC, Matt Schlapp, is back with us to talk about this. Matt, welcome back to the show. Nice to see you.
Great to be with you.
I know that you're well educated on the 5 key states that the president is disputing right now, but you've been focused a lot on Nevada. Tell us why.
Because essentially that's where the president had me go after the election to see what happened in the process. And I was shocked. I worked with Rick Grinnell and I worked with Adam Laxalt, who was former Attorney General of Nevada, and a whole great legal team down there on the ground. And we found tens of thousands of illegal ballots that are still in the count. And the sad thing is as we marched through the courts in Nevada, I don't think any of these judges looked at any of the evidence that is really compelling. It's names, it's addresses of tens of thousands of people who voted twice, who are deceased and voted, who voted outside Nevada. This is one of the sad things about this election. Apparently, you can cheat on a wide scale, and there is, to date, no recourse to do anything about it.
Yeah, and apparently we can stop the vote count around 10 p.m., and no one's going to worry about that, which has never happened, by the way, in a modern presidential election. Nevada's Supreme Court unanimously threw out a demand to overturn Joe Biden's victory there, saying the president offered no substantial evidence of fraud. And I know that you disagree with this. Can I just
tell you that makes my blood boil?
Right.
Because they literally took a matter of hours to come up with this unanimous opinion. There's so much paperwork that demonstrates the evidence of the illegal voting that we had to rent a second car when we landed in the airport to pick it up at the printer. And if you were really to give a thorough look over to these documents, it would take you days to go through it. And you'd probably want to even do some follow-up research. But they didn't look at, there's no way any human being could have looked at the research. And then to say there's no evidence. We had a blind woman come to one of our press conferences. She was not allowed to vote despite being on the rolls for decades because they mailed her ballot to some false address and somebody filled in her ballot. That blind woman was disenfranchised. She's one of the tens of thousands of people. When you talk to the family of dead relatives who voted, it makes their blood boil because they're like, this is not the American way. These are not democratic principles. How dare a judge say that there's no evidence? Well, they should look at that blind woman and tell her why they think she's a liar. They should go to these families of dead voters and say, well, apparently your relative isn't dead, I guess. The other thing they said is you have to depose every person to prove that they voted twice. You know, when people break the law, they're sometimes hard to find. I know that's a shock to people. When people are dead, it's very hard to depose them. Although I'm a spiritual person, maybe there is a way. These are absurd. These are absurd hurdles that what it essentially means is if you're in a blue state and they believe in cheating, they'll do it on a wide scale through mail-in ballots. We'll never win the presidency again. The Republican Party will never win on a national level if these are the rules of the road.
When did it become a bad thing to be conservative or to be a registered Republican in this country? And does the left not understand that Donald Trump just got at least 74 million votes, the most ever for a Republican candidate, the second most votes ever? It's shocking that they are choosing to move forward like this as a country.
Yeah, and there's a pall over this Biden election. If he is declared the winner and he puts his hand on the Bible and gets to move into the White House, I just believe that half the country believes that there's too many irregularities to believe that he won fair and square. And what he should want to do you know who opposes us in every one of these lawsuits? Biden's lawyers. They don't want any transparency. All we've been asking for is to say, we have this very clear evidence that people voted illegally. Let's work with the state authorities and knock out the ballots that are illegal. Biden fights that every step of the way. His allies fight it every step of the way. They know that if we get to go through all of those envelopes and get to do signature matches on all these mail-in ballots, that tens of thousands of ballots will be declared illegal, and it would mean that you would have changes in the outcomes in states like Nevada and Georgia and other places.
Well, they don't want that. Yeah, they don't want that, Matt. Never in the history of
That would be honest and transparent.
Right, exactly, and that would be too much. Never in the history of jurisprudence has there been no discovery, period. If there's a criminal case, a civil case, there's a discovery period, and then it goes to trial, or it's pleaded out. But it's just been ridiculous to watch this. Matt, if you are somebody that posts conservative messages on Twitter, Facebook, that's why Parler has done so well, but there's been a massive effort by the left, specifically the folks in Silicon Valley, to suppress anything conservative on social media, especially leading up to the election. Where do you see that going now, especially as we head into those 2022 midterms and try to take back the House?
It makes groups like the American Conservative Union, the group I chair, change its position on a lot of these questions about antitrust and a lot of these questions about should Americans have the ability to sue these social media companies. It makes us change our positions because in the brave new world of social media, we are being canceled.
Yeah.
It's not a fair playing field. And it already wasn't a fair playing field in TV news and print news, and now it's not fair in social media. But I'll tell you, 73.3 million Americans voted for Donald Trump. The conservative movement is the largest part of the politics of this country. People are fired up over what's happening to their country. I think they're ready to push back on this socialist agenda that's going to come forward from these Democrats. And, I still have great hope in America, but this is a dire time. If you can literally cheat by mail to win the presidency, we're not going to have a constitution left by the time we get done. And for all those Supreme Court justices and conservative judges out there, think about it. You'll never have another conservative colleague on that bench with you in your lifetime. If they can cheat this way in these big cities that are run by socialists, give that a lot of thought if you care about the Constitution.
Matt Schlapp, you are an original. Thank you very much for being with us here on Wake Up America. Come back and see us soon.